Well, here we are again, once again at the lovely corner and the very sunny corner today of Glenwood and Lunt. We are in the heart of Rogers Park. We are up on the stage at the Heartland Cafe, and we are bringing you another edition of Live from the Heartland Radio. It is the 30th of January in the year 2010, and I'm Michael James. I'm going to be your host for this morning's edition. Today we got a nice lineup. We got two of my friends are coming up. We're going to start off with Dave Grier, who will join us to share some memories about our late friend Pat Hall. He'll tell us about a memorial that is planned for Pat. And after that, we're going to have Jeff Beggars. And Jeff has a new book called Reckoning at Eagle Creek, The Secret Legacy of Coal in the Heartland. And he's in town for a book party and a celebration of the new book tonight at the No Exit Cafe. So we're going to start off with Dave Grier. Good morning to you, Dave.
Good morning, Michael. How are you?
I'm good, and I'm sorry that we have to be brought together under these particular circumstances, but it is always good to see you.
Yeah, it's great to see you, and I really appreciate you opening up your heart and your club for this benefit.
Well, Pat Hall was quite a guy. You know, I go way back with Pat, too, and, you know, he just seemed like he was always here. He was always playing the open mic. He played various gigs. I helped him get a wedding gig one time. I always thought I'd try to get him to turn the volume down. He made me laugh. I loved his drawings. Tell us a little bit about how you got to know Pat.
Well, it was interesting. Pat lived next door to a pizza place I was delivering pizzas for. And the owner of the pizza place said, you know, you might be interested in meeting this guy because I know you play music too. And I got to meet Pat Hall, and he had a record. And I thought, man, this guy's a god. This is amazing just to meet a guy like this. And for some reason, we became fast friends after that, started a jam in his storefront, and got to just having a lot of fun together. And when we'd go to parties, people would suggest, you know, you guys should form a comedy team because you're a natural together. And lo and behold, we did.
You talked about playing some music at his place. Was that here in the Heartland building?
No, that actually came later.
It
Funny
came
enough,
later, okay.
We did live together.
Because Pat lived in what is now the Heartland Journal office and the storage room for all of the artwork that we have laying around.
Which is quite appropriate. Yeah, we both lived there. Actually had opposite corner lofts where we had a skirmish line just sending women back and forth. It was a lot of fun.
You guys are still, you were quite a comedy team.
Yeah, well, the funny thing is we got that whole thing started on a dare from a comedy writer for David Letterman named Jim Wiggins, who suggested that we get together and go do an open mic for him. And when we did that, it was just, everybody loved it. Now, keep in mind that we were still reading the bits. We hadn't learned any of it, had just written it. And then once we learned it, he said, come on down to the Earl of Old Town. He's got this place called the Earl's Pub on Lincoln Avenue. And we went in there on an open mic. We waited for everybody to go up. I mean, they were singing about the sea for about 3 hours before we got to go up there. And once we finally hit the stage, everybody said they'd never heard anything like it, never saw anything like it, and he asked us to just come back next weekend. Well, next weekend turned into next weekend, and next month. We were there for 2.5 years straight, every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
This was your music gig or your comedy gig, or the combo?
It was the combination that started it all. And it was from that, after 2.5 years of pretty much wearing out that gig, that they decided they were going to move on, and we decided it was best. And a good friend got us in with somebody at Catch a Rising Star Comedy Club, which had opened in the Hyatt Regency in Chicago. We then ended up the hosts there for every week for a year and making the best money we ever made in our lives for very little work. And after that was over...
Those were the good old days.
Yeah. And after that was over and the club closed, we ended up going on tour as a comedy team. Now, we had to open up for people first because we weren't proven on the road. So they made us the middle act. Well, just to give you an example, Joy Behar now has a show. She was one of the people we opened for. She complained after the first night that we had sucked the laughs out of the room. And I thought to myself, how do you do that? Is that like a special vacuum you get? And we, for some reason, had that complaint time after time, so they quickly moved us into a headline position. And from then on, 13 years on the road, 17 different states.
So you go back 30 years with Pat Hall.
Yeah.
And you told us how you met him at the pizza joint. If I was from outer space and you were trying to describe to me Pat Hall, what he was about, where he came from, what he was like, what he looked like, what he did. How about giving a shot at that?
I don't know. When first opinion, you might thought Pat was a biker because he just liked to put on that persona.
He was a burly guy at one time. He leaned down a lot over riding his bicycle as opposed to a motorcycle.
As a kid, this guy was a lifeguard at Tui Beach in the Leon Beach Junior Lifeguard Program. He was also a wrestler at Sullivan High School. He was always into building it up, and he looked good. He was always in shape. That's why we're in such shock here, because this is the guy who would be riding his bike from here to Winnetka and back, and always eating the best foods. I mean, on the road.
He ate here a lot.
On the road, this guy would have the salad for breakfast while I'm at the breakfast bar. You can see the difference, and I'm the one that should be in the box anyway. It was such a shock to see such a healthy guy go that at this point we're still freaking out.
I'm getting a lot of people who are coming in who knew of Pat or knew Pat, and they're asking me what happened. Can you tell us the medical diagnosis of the situation?
Well, it's a combination of things. What happened is in October he began to lose weight, and he and I, of course, had been in contact every day, and he said he didn't understand what was going on, but he was losing weight like crazy, had no pain, had no problems with hunger or anything. He was eating regularly, but he went and got some blood tests at a clinic that he was going to in this area, and he wasn't getting results fast enough, and things were happening too fast. So he suggested he go down to Northwestern Memorial Hospital downtown, because it's a teaching hospital, and sometimes they like to have a little something they can work on and teach the kids, and ended up that's what they did. Unfortunately, he was diagnosed with liver and colon cancer, and the liver had been so bad that they had to do a lot of procedures just to get chemotherapy started. And after 2 weeks in the hospital, chemotherapy had been successful, but unfortunately, what happens with cancer patients is they're very prone to blood clots. And so a blood clot came up from his leg and passed through and took him. Unfortunately, the reason that happened was they had to take him off the blood thinners. They had actually put in an aortic filter screen to stop the clots, but it did get past, and there was nothing they could do. In the long run, Pat was looking at nothing but pretty much a rough road from then on out. He was diagnosed with terminal cancer. They could not operate. He was not a candidate for a transplant. There was nothing they could have done. It was very old. It had been there a long time. And oddly enough, the reason this all started, he quit drinking. And that's when it all went downhill. It was like the liver said, "What, you're not going to give me what I want?" So that's unfortunately the story.
I heard that Pat had cancer from one of our neighbors, and I gave him a call, and I'm so glad I got to talk to him. We actually, we didn't think it would happen this fast, his death. It was clear he knew that it was not going to be a long life ahead. We made plans. He was going to come on the radio show. We wanted to get some taping done, which I know you have done, and we'll talk about that in the next segment. We said maybe we should have a benefit. You're going to need to raise some money. So we had set up a benefit with you and Pat for the 14th. That's Valentine's Day at the Red Line Tap. And then I got a call last Sunday that he had passed away. So the benefit is now a memorial.
Yes, it's now a memorial, cover his final expenses. Pat was one of these guys that I'm sure it won't shock you to know that he really didn't care what happened after he died, because he said to me, "What's the difference? I'm gone." But I'm not going to let somebody come up to me and say, "Well, what happened to him?" And I'm going to say he's in a pauper's grave. No. So we're having him cremated, and at a private ceremony. We were going to have a public, but at a private ceremony, his family will be there to spread his ashes where he was a lifeguard at Tui Beach.